What if NATO's worst strategic nightmare arrived all at once, forcing the alliance to confront a two-front crisis with almost no time to react? What would happen if the world's two most powerful rivals launched major military operations simultaneously, challenging Western defenses across separate but interconnected theaters? Why might NATO discover that it is not fully prepared for an unthinkable scenario involving a large-scale conflict in Europe and a simultaneous crisis in the Indo-Pacific? A two-front war that nobody is prepared for could erupt if China moved against Taiwan while Russia launched a major offensive in Europe, stretching Western forces, logistics, intelligence networks, and political unity to the breaking point. Could this become a modern-day Pearl Harbor 2.0, exposing serious weaknesses in Western readiness and revealing that the United States and its allies are far less prepared than their public statements suggest? As U.S. missile stockpiles reportedly fall by as much as 66% after years of high-intensity military support and operational demands, China and Russia may be watching closely and assessing whether America can sustain a prolonged two-front war. As Washington remains tied down in the Middle East, military experts are asking a dangerous question. Could America still respond effectively if a major crisis erupted in Europe and Asia at the same time? A simultaneous crisis in Europe and the Indo-Pacific could become NATO's biggest military and political test in decades, forcing the alliance to defend its eastern flank while supporting American operations thousands of miles away. Western experts warn that the United States and Europe may lack a fully developed plan for responding to a coordinated or synchronized attack involving Russia and China, particularly if both powers exploit the distraction created by the other theater. According to sources cited by The Atlantic, analysts believe this scenario is plausible, even if Moscow and Beijing do not form a formal military alliance, because both countries could independently act when they believe Western attention and resources are divided. Russia could attempt to strike NATO's eastern flank in Europe while China launches a military operation against Taiwan, creating two simultaneous emergencies that would test Western air defenses, naval power, logistics networks, ammunition reserves, and political unity. NATO officials have warned that the alliance is not fully prepared for a simultaneous two-front war, especially one that would require the United States to divide its most capable forces between European deterrence and Indo-Pacific operations. General Alexis Grinkowicz has urged European allies to do more to help America prepare for a potential two-front conflict, arguing that Europe must strengthen its own defenses instead of assuming Washington can always provide the decisive military response. NATO strategist Florence Gorb has said that the alliance is aware of this planning gap, but recognizing the vulnerability is not the same as solving it, and critical questions about force availability, command structures, stockpiles, and reinforcement timelines remain unresolved. The United States is currently engaged in military operations against Iran, while major forces have reportedly shifted from Europe and Asia toward the Middle East, raising concerns that America's ability to respond rapidly in two other theaters could be temporarily weakened. Estimates claim that as much as 80% of the U.S. military's THAAD interceptor inventory has been depleted during the war, raising serious questions about America's ability to defend against simultaneous missile threats in multiple regions. Eastern NATO members, including Poland and Romania, have faced repeated violations of their airspace by Russian aircraft and unmanned systems, increasing fears that accidental incidents could escalate into a broader confrontation. The Baltic states have also reported Russian drones, missiles, and fighter jets entering or approaching their airspace, creating constant pressure along one of NATO's most exposed and strategically vulnerable frontiers. Germany recently discovered a Russian-made drone carrying a warhead at Leipzig airport, an incident that intensified concerns about covert operations and potential attacks inside NATO territory. The drone was reportedly being prepared for an attack against a Ukrainian cargo aircraft, suggesting that the incident may have been connected to a wider campaign targeting Ukraine's military supply and transportation networks. U.S. intelligence agencies believe Russia could test NATO's resolve through disruptive cyber attacks, sabotage operations, or even an invasion of a member state if Moscow concludes that the alliance is distracted or politically divided. Former NATO chief Rob Bauer warned that Russia could exploit a Chinese attack on Taiwan, using the crisis in Asia as an opportunity to challenge NATO's defenses and expand pressure on Europe. Bauer argued that a simultaneous assault by China and Russia could have a greater chance of weakening NATO's unity, because allied governments would face competing demands, limited military resources, and enormous pressure from their populations. The Center for Strategic and International Studies, known as CSIS, has published a report examining how Washington could respond to the emergence of a stronger China-Russia axis and prevent the two powers from exploiting American strategic overstretch. MIT military wargaming expert Eric Hegenbotham has said that no major Western think tank has fully wargamed a conflict in which China attacks Taiwan while Russia launches a major operation against NATO. The lack of detailed wargaming highlights a major gap in Western planning, because policymakers may understand the danger of a two-front conflict without knowing exactly how forces, weapons, reinforcements, and political decisions would function under pressure. According to The Telegraph, Russia is reportedly building a new network of concealed drone bases along its western borders, raising concerns that the facilities could support operations far beyond Ukraine. These new sites are said to include launch pads for long-range drones, potentially giving Russia the ability to strike targets across NATO member states from positions close to its western frontier. Some of these facilities are reportedly already being used to launch drone attacks against Ukraine, suggesting that the network may be operational rather than merely part of a future military expansion. Journalists examined leaked documents alongside satellite imagery and identified at least 10 Russian drone sites that appear to be linked to the country's expanding long-range strike infrastructure. At least 59 new drone launch rails have reportedly been discovered near Russia's borders with Belarus and Ukraine, indicating a significant increase in the number of available launch positions. Russia is allegedly using both military installations and civilian airfields to accommodate drone control centers, maintenance units, storage areas, and launch facilities. Some of the reported launch sites have even been constructed inside small villages near the border, making them more difficult to distinguish from ordinary civilian infrastructure and potentially harder to target. The investigative group DroneSec reportedly identified around 20 new launch rails that are longer than the standard rails normally associated with Russia's existing drone systems. Those extended launch rails may have been designed for Russia's newest generation of drones, which are believed to feature substantially longer flight ranges and could pose a threat to targets deeper inside Europe. The emerging Russian drone infrastructure could pose a long-term security threat to NATO countries by expanding Moscow's ability to conduct surveillance, coercion, sabotage, and precision strikes across Europe. Some Russian drone bases are reportedly positioned in locations that could potentially allow long-range unmanned aircraft to reach Warsaw, placing Poland among the European capitals that could fall within their operational range. However, there is currently no confirmed evidence that Russia is preparing to launch a direct military attack on Poland or deliberately initiate an open conflict with NATO. Instead, US and European intelligence officials are reportedly concerned that Moscow could pursue limited provocations on Polish soil while attempting to remain below the threshold of a conventional military confrontation. Possible scenarios could include attacks against critical infrastructure, disruptions to transport and communications networks, or covert operations designed to create confusion, panic, and political instability. Russia could also attempt to stage a false flag operation and then blame Ukraine for the incident, potentially seeking to exploit divisions within NATO and complicate the alliance's response. This expanding drone network could give Moscow new options for conducting long-range strikes, covert operations, and sustained pressure against targets across Europe without relying exclusively on traditional missile systems. The newly identified launch sites demonstrate how Russia is expanding its drone warfare infrastructure near NATO territory, creating a wider and more flexible military network along Europe's eastern flank. One Russian drone base reportedly contains storage facilities capable of holding more than 1,000 attack drones at the same time, suggesting that Moscow is preparing for large-scale and sustained aerial operations. Construction of additional drone launch positions is reportedly still underway at several Russian sites, indicating that the country's unmanned strike network continues to expand. Russian military factories are allegedly delivering drones directly to these newly established launch facilities, allowing the weapons to be stored, prepared, and deployed closer to the operational area. Many of these drones are reportedly manufactured in the Alabuga Special Economic Zone in Tatarstan, which has become a major center for Russia's production of long-range unmanned aircraft. Leaked documents claim that the new Geran 4 and Geran 5 drone variants are powered by jet engines, potentially giving them greater speed, range, and flexibility compared with earlier designs. The newer Geran variants are also reportedly capable of carrying warheads weighing up to 90 kilograms, which could significantly increase the damage they inflict against infrastructure and military targets. Mike Monnick, the founder of DroneSec, says Russia can now launch much larger numbers of drones simultaneously, creating the possibility of saturation attacks that could overwhelm air defense systems. Monnik also says advances in Russian drone technology are making these unmanned aircraft more difficult to detect and intercept, increasing the pressure on defenders during large-scale attacks. Analysts warn that Russia's new jet-powered drones could eventually threaten European countries, particularly if their improved speed, range, and payload capabilities are confirmed. The reported location of some Russian bases could potentially allow long-range drones to reach Warsaw, placing Poland's capital within the theoretical operating range of Russia's expanding strike network.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.